Hi, welcome back. At this point, we've all spent hours and hours watching different kinds of English videos. We've watched all those popular TV shows that people recommend here online. And we've also tried to get our hands on different kinds of English videos like TED Talks, talk shows, interviews, anything that you can think of. You probably already watched it. I mean, you're watching an English video right now. But your spoken English has been standing still. It's not progressing as you have expected. You're not feel like accumulating that much extra language usage from spending hours watching these videos. So what is happening there? If this is one of the problems you're facing right now, maybe you will find this video helpful. So we all know that language learning is all about input versus output. But there are a couple of things you need to know first before figuring out what is exactly missing in your practice. First, you have to know that when it comes to learning English, especially improving your spoken English, input and output isn't necessarily proportionate, meaning that you need a large volume of input before you're able to generate any meaningful output and actually apply that to your daily language use. And the content of your input matters too. And this is something that I've mentioned many times previously. A lot of people only are concerned about how much time they spend watching English videos or how many English videos they watch without considering what exactly are they watching. Are you watching vlogs or English videos made by non-English speakers? Are you watching TV shows that have very little to do with our day-to-day conversations, but more so a particular drama series or, about detectives or supernatural powers and things like that? In other words, the kind of language content we're exposed to kind of decides how effective this approach is. And that's why I kept mentioning that it doesn't matter which TV show or what types of English videos you're interested in. What matters to me is for you to find something that's very relevant to your day-to-day life. Chances are most of us will need to learn some conversational English so that we can carry on normal conversations with English speakers, or we can, talk in an organized way about a specific topic for an extensive period of time. So all those goals require us to be familiar with the commonly used structures and expressions that native speakers are currently using in their everyday encountering with people. So perhaps the reason why all the hours you spend in watching English videos have not turned into the progress you were expecting is that your choice of content isn't necessarily the most appropriate or most effective for the kind of language goals you have in mind. And the second reason why the progress is not happening for you, which I find it's the problem for most people, is that we often miss a step in between. When we think that anything that comes in is going to get out in some way or another, there's actually a missing link here. Anytime when we listen to or watch an English video, we're not actually taking in the information as much as we thought. And that has to do with not understanding maybe the correct meanings of that expression, that structure, not understanding the exact context that phrase can be used in, and last but not least, not practicing using it frequently. If any of the steps that I just mentioned is missing, it's going to be very hard for you to retain the information you have learned from your TV shows or your TED Talks. And what that means is that you're always using a basket with huge holes in it to try to capture all these great language use. You're not going to get many. Not a lot is going to stay behind. And one particular note I want to add to is from my own experience. Sometimes, even though I've watched and rewatched some of the TV shows many times, if the things I've learned from this TV show aren't used later on by myself in my own conversations with others, chances are I'm not going to remember them. Which kind of brings us back to some of the things I mentioned in other videos. Sometimes it's hard for you to retain all the information and to apply it to your own use when you don't have the environment where you're required to go through your memory and find those particular phrases that you just learned. And it's the same thing with our reading. You know, a lot of us, when we're reading an English article or English book, we like to highlight all the new words and write down the meanings or even examples next to it. But if we don't turn around to use these new words or phrases in our own conversations or in our writing, in that case, you're not going to remember all those things after a day or two. And for me, the time spent doing that kind of work is really not worthwhile. So what can you do instead? How can we make the best of the time we spend watching English videos and making the most out of them? How can we benefit in the most effective way from watching these different English videos? First, you have to use a combination of different approaches. I always tell my students that you don't necessarily have to watch and rewatch every single English video that you find. And it's kind of like the 20-80 rule, you know? 20% of your time should be spent watching some really quality content, and 80% of your time should be used towards trying to canvas as many different types of videos as possible, trying to diversify the type of content you watch on a regular basis. You know, sometimes you might want to watch something that's more casual, like an interview or a talk show where jokes are told. Sometimes you might want to focus on things more serious, like a news broadcast and things like that, or something like TED Talk when it's more academic focused, or it's a very deep dive into a particular discipline or particular field. Second, which is also probably more important, is to always reflect on what you have learned. You can't just watch the videos, turn off your laptop, or put away your phone, and that's it. Call it there. No, it doesn't work that way. Things don't stay that way. After you watch a video, especially the ones that you feel like you've learned a lot from, or you feel like it's very valuable, there's a lot of things you can learn from that video, watch it again. You know, watch it as many times as you need for you to gather all the important information and reflect on it. And by reflecting, I meant try to think about, is this something that I can use in my daily language use? Is this something that I can use next time when I'm talking with my teacher? Next time when I'm talking with my friend online? Is that something that I was trying to figure out how to express in English, but I couldn't? And now I know how, so I'm going to remember that and then use that next time when I'm trying to express that thought. So really take some time to think about what has been taken in from these videos, because you don't necessarily need to retain 100% information all the time, right? We only need that one key phrase or one important sentence structure that's going to help us make hundreds of different sentences on our own. Those are the things that we need to retain, remember, learn how to use, and eventually apply to our own conversations.